everyone. Now's the time for telling you which microphone is which. With the microphone shootout video I've done recently. So let's start off with microphone number one. Which was microphone number one? I've got them laid out here. Shure SM57, that was microphone one. You can see there, microphone one. Microphone number two was the Unearthed D4, that one there. Microphone number three was the Aston Stealth, that one there. Big old chunky mic, that one. Mic number four was the SM7B, that one there. You can see it's writing the right way around there, but you see it that way. And put that down nice and carefully. And mic number five was this one. That was the mystery one. Well, this one I made up. I made up the microphone by buying a mic capsule. I'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute. So what we'll do first is I'll just go through only 5 of the samples, so we haven't got to go all through the whole list again. I'll just go through the first 5, take a few seconds to do this, so you can listen to the clips, and I'll put the mic, I'll show you the mic placements on the screen where they were. So let's do that now. So it's interesting maybe some of you didn't hear much difference, and maybe others did. But anyway, microphone number 5 was the one I made from the capsule, and the sounds SM57 was the sound clip on the front of the video. I put that as the intro because I just thought, well, I'll show you it as a processed signal with a bit of EQ, compression, a little bit of reverb, just because when you record a raw signal, as I have done in the microphone shootout, you know, it needs a little bit of work doing on it a lot of the time. You know, you try and get the best sound from mic placement to start with, because mic placement is very important, and I've done videos, must be a couple of years ago now, on mic placement, so you can check those out. I might put links in the description if you haven't seen them. You can check those out because mic placement makes a huge difference to the sound. But in this test, I placed them, you know, in the same place, and got the sound so I could get them equivalent. And so yeah, so there's, if you listen through, microphone 5 is brighter, so that's the difference there. You'll hear a noticeable brightness with that microphone. The SM7B is actually darker out of all the microphones. It's probably the darkest, although the Unearthed D4 is quite dark because it's got a lot of bass on it. So if you compare the SM57 and the Unearthed D4, you'll notice, or you'll hear, that there's more bass on the Unearthed D4, and the SM7B is quite dark because it hasn't got a lot of top end, and which is why you know, the high end frequencies are not emphasized there, and that's why a lot of podcasters like them, or broadcasting as a broadcasting mic, like the RE20 mic was used as a broadcasting mic because it's got a bit of a darker sound, and it does wonders for the voice, you know, straight off the bat without having to EQ, because you could EQ the SM57 to give you that much closer sound to that. But of course, that's why you choose certain microphones, because you can get it straight out the door without having to doing loads of EQing, or you can EQ it easily on that particular microphone. That's the beauty of it. So anyway, and I'll do that now. I'll show you a frequency response graph of a couple of different microphones. Here's the SM57, and then I'll also show you here's the SM57 here. So that's the SM57 frequency response graph. You can see there it rolls off at about 200. It's got quite a lot of high-end frequencies there. You can see that. So you can see it's going to have a little bit of a crispiness to it, and pick up some, some of the top-end sounds. But look at the way it rolls off at 200. So on the bass end. Now, that could be useful if you're in a certain room and you've got a lot of low mid problems or a lot of bass problems. That rolling off could be quite handy or helpful in that situation. But sometimes you can EQ that out anyway if it's got a lot of bass in the low end. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't on EQ. Sometimes it's better to just have the microphone that will have that in its characteristics. But and also here we've got the Audix D4, and look at that, it's got a lot more bass in the low end there. Look at the low end frequency of this on the frequency response chart. So there's the differences, and if you look at all the frequency response graphs, they all show different responses, but it's best to listen to them to hear the characteristics and sort of timbre. When you're listening to your didgeridoo, the timbre of the didgeridoo is all the rich harmonics, and so when you listen to different microphones will pick. They'll just sound different. It's very noticeable with mics. Also, one thing to note is obviously I've done this as a general playing style, kind of old school playing style, where you're not using a lot of low frequencies. If you're a multi-dronist or got really long digis, you might want to get a microphone or look at a microphone that's got really low frequency response. So an SM57 isn't going to kick it, is it, with that kind of low frequency response? So obviously take that into consideration. But this Shootout is really for a general playing style where all these microphones will be fine for the low end on going down to a certain frequency. So but anyway, on the other, I high passed it, because the explanation for high passing, when I did it on the second run, I high passed it because, as I say, if you're playing in this style and you're not needing a lot of low end frequencies, you can just roll off the low end for fundamental frequency and get a better idea of what the sound is. Because let's just say you plonk the microphone down in to record it, and let's just say you've got the best mic placement, you've moved it away, you haven't got loads of proximity effect on it, you've moved away, but it's still very bassy, and you think, oh no, I don't like the sound of that mic. Well, you only have to roll the low end off, and then you might then think, oh, that sounds an awful lot better, that sounds pretty good actually. That's what happens, and that's why I suggest if you're testing a microphone, do a high pass roll off, low cut, high pass, same thing, just so you can get a sense of the sort of richness of the harmonics, because the bass, if you've got too much bass, it'll skew the whole sound of it, and then you can later on, if you get a mic like that, you can EQ it as you want then. So that's the reason I high passed it, just so you can get a different sound, a different idea of the sound as it high passed as it was without high pass on it, if that makes sense. The other thing was I also played it through the gap, a different preamp, just to see if you heard any differences there, because you've got the transformers the microphone goes through, will affect the sound. So that's why people use different preamps. But the major thing here was on the microphone Shootout, not really the preamps, but just an added extra if you found that interesting. So the other thing was this microphone here, number 5, I'm gonna do an outro with this one and put and play the E flat, the same clip. The clip on the intro was the same clip I used on the SM57 in the mic Shootout, and this is exactly the same. I'm going to use one of the clips from the mic shootout from this microphone, the E flat sound, and I'm going to use it on the outro as a sound, as a process sound, so you can just hear what that sounds like if you process it, you know, add a bit of EQ, compression and so forth to it, see what that sounds like, just as something interesting. But this microphone only cost me £12, and it's a cap, this top bit here, the capsule, I've taken another microphone apart, put that in the body, wired it up, put an XLR connector on it. It doesn't have a transformer in it, so it's pure dynamic mic capsule through there and into the interface, you know, into my preamp rather. And it doesn't sound, you know, you might like that. This is the brighter one. You might like that microphone. Well, for that cost, it's like, well, the thing is here, if you can't, you know, if you're listening to this mic setup and you're thinking, well, I can't hear a lot of difference between those, why pay? You know, the SM7B is about, what, $330 in the UK, £330. If you don't have much gain on it, what's that going to be? Another £100 for a cloud lifter or something? You know, and a lot of people like that, and they'll buy it, and it's a great mic. But if you're not hearing a lot of difference, and why spend out more money on a mic when you can buy one really cheap? You know, it's worth thinking about. And the SM57 I think is about 80 odd quid as well. So, you know, keep that in mind. If you can hear the difference, then obviously it is worth it to you. You know, if you want something different, and you'd have to try and test it yourself. You know, really. To know whether that's the case for you, because microphone choice is subjective at the end of the day, as well as qualitative sound. There is a quality and objective sound quality to it, a character to it, but there's also a subjective liking to it as well. And also microphones work better on certain things, you know, and there'll be certain microphones that work better on Didge and others that won't. But it's still, I think if you, all these microphones, you can get them to work and you can process them and get a good sound out of all of them, I think, really. But anyway, is there anything else I need to say today? Just wanted to cover that, really, show what the microphones were. And I think I will, because I've done quite a few microphone videos in the past, of microphone placement in particular. I think the first two, you know, I did a proximity test as well, where I was showing you how mic placement, how close affects the sound of your Didge. Makes a huge impact on the sound. So check those out if you want to. I'll put a link in the description to those videos, which I did a couple of years ago. And I think that's about it. I don't think I need to mention anything more. Anyway, I hope you found it interesting. And I think what I was going to say is I'll do another microphone video about choosing microphones, and maybe a couple of tips, you know, of, you know, if you're a beginner, or even if you're a professional player that doesn't have much experience of mics, you know, I'll kind of do another one, just maybe to help with some ideas about choosing, because there's hundreds and thousands of microphones, dynamic microphones, condenser microphones, ribbon microphones, tube microphones, or valve. There's tube valve microphone, means the same thing. And you know, you can get started cheaply. You know, you haven't got to spend a lot of money on it. And if you're a beginner, you don't want to be spending a lot of money on it, because you'll be improving your technique as well. And that's all the Didge, the technique, the sound of the Didge, and they all make a difference to the sound. It's not just the microphone, you know, it's the Didge sound as well, quality and all, technique and performance and everything. So anyway, I won't rabbit on anymore. Hopefully that was an interesting finish on that, and keep an eye out, because I say I probably will, and if I do, I'll do it fairly soonish, do a microphone, choosing a microphone. Anyway, that's all for today. Thanks for watching.